Welcome to the Breakfast Leadership Show, where we interview global thought leaders on business, leadership, and life. Here's your host, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, Michael Levitt.
Welcome back. I've got Roy Snarr on the line. Roy, how are you today?
Doing great, sir. It's a beautiful day.
It always is. So really love the work you're doing. So why don't you share a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Yeah, totally. So my name is Roy Snarr. I'm based here in Austin, Texas. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. My path in the entrepreneurship journey began with insurance. And so I started selling life insurance, final expense, annuities, long-term care. And slowly but surely, the overnight success took about a decade, and then it happened. And we were able to build a seven-figure agency, and we still run it today, and we're growing exponentially. And I'm in my 15th year now. And it's very rewarding. Be able to help people with insurance protection and be able to take care of our families. And I have lots to share on the journey because it wasn't easy, like all entrepreneurial paths are, but it's been a lot of fun. So that's our main focus. And I also do some real estate investing, buy properties with some of the income generated from the insurance practice to help diversify.
That's a great way to diversify income with real estate, because that's obviously people need it, especially in a place like Austin that's had, half of California move to it. I say that tongue in cheek, but I know a lot of people that migrated to Austin from all over, not from California, but other places as well, because it's such a booming area. And I was down there for a conference. Was it last year or 2 years ago? The pandemic blurred years for us, so it's I don't know what. It's like that 20? That was 22. Oh, I totally had that as 2023. Okay, but I was down there at a conference and was amazed at the growth that I had seen from the last time that I had been down there, it was several years ago. It was like, oh my goodness, it's like this city is hardly recognizable. I mean, you still have the the things that have always been there, but just the massive amount of growth and people coming in there, and from entrepreneur standpoint, a business standpoint like yours, it's like, okay, we got a lot of people that need to be insured, and maybe they're just starting their families and all of that. And of course, in the insurance business, it's the best way to describe it. And I worked for a couple of years for an independent insurance agency in Central Florida, so I know a little bit of the jargon.
Sure.
I don't remember all of it, but I remember some of it. But one of the things that I always felt about insurance that people often miss is they think, oh, I have my insurance bill. It's like insurance is like your partner, one of your partners along life. You pause for a second. Okay, where am I at in life right now? Okay, do I have the right coverage for me at my moment? What about future planning? What do I want that to look like? The end of life insurance, the funeral expense, all those things. And my mom passed away last February, so almost a year ago now, which again is alarming. But thankfully, she had everything set up, so it was almost a concierge type service for my brother and I to deal with everything, because everything was just, here it is, done. And I know that's the exception and not the norm. And that's why it's so important for people, entrepreneurs in particular, to make sure that they have things mapped out. And it's not just okay, here's my business liability policy, and okay, here's my auto insurance, here's my life insurance, okay, done. No, it's understanding your story as an individual and what you want for your business, what you want for your future, legacy planning, and all of that. So that's not just go buy it online and click, done. No, it should be it should be more robust for that, because as individuals, we're complex, and our coverage should cover that. So hopefully I didn't steal your thunder there, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when it comes to basic planning, a lot of times people say, to your point, I could just buy it online. The challenge with just buying it online without a consultation, number one, you don't have to pay an agent to educate you. We are compensated directly from the insurance carriers. And if you buy it online, they're just basically cutting out the agent, and you're still getting the same pretty much premium price. There's not like massive discounts. Even Costco offers life insurance through Protective, but life insurance is pretty straightforward. And a lot of folks, they don't think of it. I mean, who wants another bill? I totally get it. But it's the only bill that will help pay for all of the other bills. And after 15 years of doing this, I have processed an enormous amount of death claims. I processed one this morning for a family. And it's very rewarding as an agent to know that, hey, look, since I had that conversation, I handled those objections, went back and forth with the client, but now look, they have some financial freedom because the world does not care. The world is all based on the money. The mortgage company, your utility company, they're not going to say, hey, Michael was a great guy, so we're going to waive the bill. They don't care if you're alive or dead or sick or feeling well. They want the money. And so life insurance and insurance in general is the least expensive way to obtain that money. Even if you have a sufficient amount of assets, people still use it because it's income tax-free leveraged ability to create generational wealth and also to pay off all kinds of liabilities.
Yeah, it's important. It's a instrumental part for your planning for your business now and in the future. So let's dive into your journey a little bit, because I always love talking stories with people, no matter what level of success. And obviously, building a 7-figure agency, against the monolith insurance companies out there is not an easy task. And it's like it's always one of those things, again, going back to when I worked many years ago in Central Florida for independent agency, and they're a pillar of the community, and I know that's the case with you as well. But talk us through the journey. You decided to go into this venture and launch the business and all of that. So share some of the stories that you want to share.
Yeah, sure. So I have no background in financial services, insurance, anything white collar. My entire family, like I grew up with my mom in California and then my dad in Missouri. And when I went to Missouri, I did commercial logging, like logging, farming. And then in California, I did like construction and yard work, whatever I needed to do to make some money. Zero background in like professional services, really. And so I had very little concept of what it would actually take. And then during college, I always had this like calling, this intuition, like school's not really for me. I was good at it, but didn't really want to do it. Didn't really want to do anything in the trades. I wanted to do something where I could visit and network with people and have a good time and be able to make a good living. And I used to always ask my friends in college. I wouldn't ask them for advice because we're the same people sitting next to each other holding an empty beer can trying to figure out what's going on with life. I'd say, hey, let me talk to your parents and to see what your parents do. Maybe they can lend some insight. And I did that for almost a year, just interviewing all my friends' parents, like, what do you do for work? And is there an opportunity there? How do you like it? Because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And I stumbled upon somebody that had a friend in the insurance business. And I said, I don't know anything about insurance. Let me go interview and sit down and talk with them. Well, long story short, it ended up being a career in life insurance. And after learning just a little bit about it, I developed a passion for it. And I can see that I was like, wow, I'm able to help people, not charge them, get paid by an insurance company, and I can make as much as I want. And the more I make, the more I'm helping people. This makes total sense. And so that's what I did. I went full speed into it. And it was a really rough 5 years. The first 5 years were brutal. I wanted to quit. I loved the concept, but it wasn't working out for me. I was spending money. I ran out of money, got a part-time job, and then went from part-time job back into insurance. I was like, man, I got to get this figured out. I see other people actually doing it. And so I just started doing everything grassroots. I literally door knocked to sell life insurance. I sat in Starbucks and waited for a guy like you to walk in. I'd be like, hey, hello, sir. Can you give me your opinion on this marketing piece I'm doing for my company? And it'd be a little thing about life insurance. And if I add about 10 people, one person out of 10 would be like, how does that work? Right? And then I got a lead. And I would do that all the time. I started generating business. I mean, that was total grassroots, that knocking on doors and using hotels' printing machines because I didn't have a printer at home. I mean, pretty much anything you could do to make it happen. That's what I ended up doing. And slowly but surely, it led me to bigger clients. And then those bigger clients had connections with other agencies that I started to partner with. And then we started really ramping up and growing. And this was like in the 6th and 7th year. And then by the 10th year, we had this massive, vast network of people that we were rocking and rolling with. And then I decided to move from the Bay Area in California to Texas. That's when I moved to Texas, 2018. I moved out here and I was like, wow, I don't have a network anymore. I don't know anybody, right? but let me make this happen. So I started again from absolute zero. But what I did have was the determination and the confidence of being able to do it again because I did it in California. That got me through. And then within the first 3 years, we hit seven figures, and now we've quadrupled that. And this year's anticipated to be our largest year. And we help more than just consumers now. We also help individual agents and brokers and CPAs and attorneys, all with insurance solutions. And there's lots more of tears and crying in between all that journey too. I didn't know how much detail you want me to get into.
No, that's good, and we'll touch on, like, something that was really challenging and something that, was, really rewarding, but you hit on something there that I don't want to gloss over for sure. And this is something that I've seen time and time again with people, not only people that have had, we hear the cases, they launched the business, had a successful exit, launched another one, and all that kind of good stuff. And then there's been the stories where they launched a business, it was successful, and all of a sudden, the market, whatever their product was, something happened, and they
Sure.
lost it all, but they were able to build again. Why? Because they had the infrastructure of knowing how to build, and
Yep.
you paid attention, and you're like, okay, we're gonna uproot ourselves. We're gonna leave, the 49ers, and now we gotta go root for one of the Texas teams. No,
Yeah.
not that one. I'm not making any judgment calls or anything like that. No, not that one. But who knows? There's
Well, you lost your Chargers to LA, so
we've lost a lot of teams to LA, and at the time of this recording, my heart, and obviously, kind of timely, with the work that you do, my heart goes out to all the devastation and loss of the
yeah.
fires that are going on out there. Persevere, people. I know that seems very, light to say, but you'll get through this. Things can be replaced, people can't. So, you rebuild. Yeah, it will take time and probably seem like it takes forever, but look for the opportunities here. And sometimes that might mean, what? Yeah, we've been thinking about moving to a different part of the state or the country. Maybe this is our sign to do so. Each individual, you do what's best for you. But going back to what we're talking about, share with us, I guess, one of the, and I know you kind of alluded to it already, when you first started your business, those first few years were like, doors slammed and all that, and you weren't getting any business, and you're like, I'm buying all this material, I'm paying for all the expenses. It was probably at Kinko's before FedEx Office took over or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
so I remember that from my college days because I didn't have a printer at home either. So I was like, okay, I got to print this term paper. And like, it's like, wait a minute, I'm paying too much for this college stuff, man. This is nuts. And that was back then. I wouldn't even want to fathom what it would cost now. But ultimately, you navigated that. And I always ask people, when you're at that point, when you're like, okay, I have to make a decision, and you did go get a part-time job because you recognize I got to eat. So a lot of times people struggle with that because they feel that I'm walking away from my dream, but that wasn't my sense when you shared that. You're like, okay, it's not where it needs to be, but I'm not willing to walk away from this, so I'm going to get some assistance, or get this job to be able to cover the things they need to cover, which then, and this is something I highly recommend to all entrepreneurs, especially if they're struggling or they're just starting off. Yeah, I know you want to work for yourself. I get it. I understand that if you can, cool. But there may be times where you need a little assistance, and instead of racking up the credit cards or taking out a bunch of loans, go get that part-time job doing something else, because then that way it takes the stress away from how do I generate enough money to pay my rent, food, and other bills. If you can cover that, then it gives you that freedom where you're not thinking about the money. Now you're thinking about, okay, how do I grow the business? And when you can drive your attention to that, that helps you get to the point where, like, what you've been able to do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'm guessing that was, part of your mindset, during that time, which is not easy because sometimes it's easy to throw in the towel.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the last thing I wanted to do was go back. to a part-time job, especially in the financial services realm, because it's always better if you're full time in it. Like, hey, I work at Starbucks, but I'm also a financial advisor. Like, okay, why are you doing that? Right? Trying to wear too many hats, but I had to do it. I ended up going back and I got a job at Volkswagen selling cars, which I absolutely could not stand. And I was like, wow, okay, what is worse? Doing cold calls and door knocking or working here? I said, working here is worse. So I did it for a short period of time, scrapped up as much money as I could, and then I quit again. And I said, okay, I'm going to go back in full time. I had like 4 months of living expenses saved up at that time. I was like, if I can't make this happen in 4 months, then maybe it isn't for me, but I know I can because I know I have other people that have done it. And I was able to make it happen barely, right? And then it was still a struggle for, over 2 years after that, just trying to figure out the systems and the processes. But I think what really helped keep me going was the fact that I spent a lot of money, all my extra money, investing in myself. I didn't buy anything fancy. I ended up selling my truck and my dirt bike, which was like the world to me at that time. As I was 21 when I got my license. And so, 21, biggest thing there was, hey, let's go to the bars. But I decided I still did that, but I also spent a lot of time focusing on insurance. And, it just made me think like, wow, I can develop this, invest into myself, started looking up, thought processes, read Think and Grow Rich. I never even heard of that book before. And it totally opened my mind up to a whole other world of possibilities. And I said, okay, the number one thing that nobody can take away from me is my ability to generate my own self-confidence and, my own perseverance. And so I started investing on coaching programs, books, audiobooks, videos like these. Back then, I would order a big disc, a DVD disc book of like Tony Robbins and all them. And I just immersed myself in that 100% of the time. And I basically just psyched myself up. And then I started understanding that there's a lot to this whole mindset thing because I'd never had that influence before, right? Money was always tight, just get a job, be comfortable. I never had this different type of upbringing, not in a negative way, just that my parents, they weren't necessarily grown up that way either. And so that really changed my perspective. And I said, okay, there's lots of opportunities out there. What am I most passionate about? And I think that a lot of people get into the entrepreneur space because they think of it as freedom and unlimited money supply, but they may not be passionate about the job that they're doing or the path that they're taking. And if you're not passionate about it, then the hard times will kick you out of it. And that's what hung me in there. I actually enjoy it. I was passionate about it. Some people can't stand insurance. That's why they're CPAs. I could never be a CPA. God bless them, but that would be the most boring job to me. And so insurance happened to be it. And that passion helped hang me in there. And then I would look to other people in the industry that were successful. I'm like, they're cool, but I'm also cool. I can do it if they can do it. How did they do it? And I started researching and studying about CEOs and their success paths. And I think the biggest kicker to me was the fact that we all have one thing equal and in common, and that's time. So it's like, okay, if these big players can do it in the same amount of time in 24 hours in a day, why can't I do it? And that's what I heavily focus on. That's what we have hundreds of agents all over the country that are in our agency. And I try to help educate them about that too. I say, look, I'm not an overnight success story. I struggled for years, lost money, had to go back at a part-time job. I am like the epitome of the insurance story. And if you just hang in there and you're passionate about it, it will work out as long as you put the work into it.
And I think that's what's really important. And you shared both, the challenges and the successes of it is, longevity and sticking to it and understanding it. And it's a lot like a garden. You plant the seeds, you nurture it, you do the things you invested in you by, buying all those audio books and DVDs and entrepreneurs today, you have this advantage, which I like to call YouTube University, where you can get all that stuff that we spent tons of money on, and you can get it for what you're paying for your internet service or your cell phone service. Utilize that. It's all out there. The Tony stuff, Brian Tracy stuff, Zig Ziglar stuff, Napoleon Hill, you name it. It's all there. Pick what resonates with you, because some people go, you know what, I like Tony more than I like Brian Tracy, or I like this one. Whatever connects with you and invigorates you to go, you know what, I can do this. And we all get, like I said, the same 24 hours is what do we do with it? And I find this time and time again with entrepreneurs and people that are in white collar or blue collar work is they really don't have a grasp on how much they they spend their time. I don't want to say waste their time, but some people could be a little bit more productive than they are, and that's their choice. Whatever they want to do with their time is up to them. But if they're looking to make that next step, to do things that they want to do, to have the things that they want to have in life, you got to get an understanding of how you're spending your time and looking at it in ways where how can I maximize what I'm doing at this time? What benefit will this provide? And from listening to the show, you could put it on 2x speed. I've done that. I don't sound like a chipmunk, so you're good. There are some people in certain parts of the world, if you do that, you can't hear them, but your dogs are barking for some reason because they're hitting a note that humans can't hear because it's too fast. But there's ways to do that. That's a hack of, when I go for my walk, I'll listen to an audiobook or something on YouTube or something like that, and I'll put it on, 2x speed. Why? Because my brain can still retain it. It's not like, okay, check off the box. I listened to this book. No, I'm listening to it, and if they say something like, okay, that is important for me, I'll rewind it or I'll pause it, open up the notepad, type it, or use my voice to record something. So I put it in my journal or do something with it. There's all kinds of different systems and things you can do, and that's something too. Before we wrap up. In order for you to grow a business in your agency like you have, you got to have systems in place. So, share some of the ideas without giving away the Colonel's secret recipe of, some of the things that you've put in play for you to be able to grow the organization as much as you have.
I think the number one thing first, like you have to learn how to delegate. So as an entrepreneur, you usually start off solo. Right. And then you have enough revenue where you've set aside for taxes, unexpected expenses, a little bit of an emergency fund, and you're constantly reinvesting into yourself. But there's a point where you can only do so much. And in order to scale to get to that next level, you have to start delegating tasks, especially those tasks that you're not good at. Like I am terrible at paperwork. I just can't stand it. I love just talking to people. And so I slowly but surely started bringing on people that could complement what I'm lacking. And I understood what I lacked. I said, hey, look, how about you do this because you like this and I'm terrible at it. I'll do this and then together we can make more money. And it started working out well. We duplicated that process. Now we have 5 people on our team that are 100% direct working with us, which is absolutely amazing to be able to have this internal team. And then we have another 15 other partners that coincide with us as well. And so I think the number one thing that entrepreneurs need to look at is like, number one, if you're going to take it to the next level, it's really challenging to just do it by yourself. There are some certain online businesses, sure, but in most of the practices, you have to learn how to delegate, and that protects your time. Because I quickly realized a few things. One, I always wanted to have the financial freedom. And then once you obtain that to your level of what you consider financial freedom, which I hit, and then I was like, great, but now I have 0 time to enjoy it. So it's more important to have time freedom. But if you want the time freedom with your level of financial freedom, you got to have other people working with you. Like, just like you said, now YouTube, I mean, you can learn pretty much anything you want on there or chat GPT, but it takes effort and requires energy. And most of the younger generation now, they're so jaded by instant gratification. Make $10,000 a month in the first 30 days. Sure, you probably could, but success takes a long time. And if it happens too fast and you don't appreciate it, and then the next storm that comes, you won't be able to weather it. But if you do it the right way and you just keep chugging along, you're going to have issues and challenges, but those will make you stronger for the next big thing to happen.
That's definitely important information, and without even watching it on YouTube, or you're probably watching this on YouTube, but it's the lessons you shared are inspiring, and it doesn't have to be insurance. It can be all kinds of different things that you can do. But following what you did and the success you've had, you painted a very great mosaic basically of how you got from here or from there to here, and your future's bright. So love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and all this amazing work?
So luckily I have a really unique last name, Snarr. And so I bought my name as a domain, which every entrepreneur should do. So you should buy your name as a domain, even if you put your middle initial in there, because people remember you, not necessarily the company, unless you become like a Coca-Cola. But they could find out more by just Googling my name, roysnarr.com. And I'm all over the internet for consumer stuff and other advisory stuff. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Yeah, I'll definitely have that in the show notes. So, Roy, thanks so much again for your time today. Really appreciate you and continued success in everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Breakfast Leadership Show, part of the Breakfast Leadership Network. Visit breakfastleadership.com for tips on empowering your business and your life.